everyone. Welcome to a new episode of What's Up with Anime. I am one of your hosts, Carolyn, and my co-host is Nat. Say hi.
Hi.
And we're joined again by Ray. Ray.
Hi.
And today we are doing our second episode of My Hero Academia. And the first episode we just did a general overview of the anime, and now today we're going to get a bit more into it, and Nat is going to tell us what we're going to discuss today. Nat.
Hi. So, now that I remember, or actually I didn't remember, I just looked it up. Now that I've looked up that Kohei Horikoshi is the mangaka for My Hero Academia, I can say that, he did a good job, and we're very, very happy to speak about a lot more of the themes of My Hero that we witnessed as viewers, and ships, which are always very important to, anime fans like us. And because last time we spoke more, as you said, a general thing. We talk about like our favorite things, like our highlights and lowlights, kind of. But yeah, I definitely think that there's so many deeper themes that we can talk about with My Hero, and so we should definitely get into it. So, how would you like to start?
I think I think we should leave the ships for last because the ships are so much fun to talk about.
Right.
Last week we talked about our favorite characters. What about
Yes.
talking about the characters that we don't necessarily like? I think we all probably have the same character in mind. And the reason I think we should start talking about this character because it does kind of I think it kind of talks about how Kohei handled certain character archetypes and character tropes that are very popular in anime. And this particular character, I was gonna say Minata, I think he kind of use Minata as a way to say, okay, this is a trope that and a character archetype that's common in anime, but I'm going to show how ridiculous this type of character is, and I'm going to show the characters within the anime not tolerating this character's ridiculous behavior, and so like if for those who don't know, Minata is like one of the students at UA, and he is the character that is always basically lusting after every female character they see. You know, like they think that all the girls that they see like someone that wants to be with them or they want to be around them. They make such sexually inappropriate comments, especially in an anime set in a school where these are teenagers. I think Kohei was intentionally showing how ridiculous it is to have animes with characters like these where the characters are teenagers. You know, there's many of them where the characters are teenagers, and you have a character like a Minata that's saying the most inappropriate things, and he's like saying, "See how ridiculous this character is." This is he makes such an inappropriate jokes. Like there's this episode where they're going to they moved into UA and they're touring around to the different rooms that the students have, and like they're doing like a room tour and like judging each other's room tours, and like they didn't go into Minata's because he was acting like a complete creep, you know, like kind of saying like come into my lair, this kind of things. And the girls were like no, we're not coming. And the male characters, one thing I like about My Hero Academia is the male characters always cut that shit in the butt quick, and like they all very make it clear like you're being appropriate and we don't tolerate that appropriateness. Like there's a scene where the girls are changing in a bathroom and he's trying to look through a peephole at the girls, and Jiro uses her earplugs to basically poke him in the eye and physically punish him for that. So I want us to talk about how this is a character that I don't like, but I do like how Kohei handled this character with regards to the narrative. And do you guys, is Minata your most disliked character in this anime, or is it what other characters you don't like?
I don't like Mineta. I don't.
No.
I agree with what you said, Caroline. I don't like Mineta, but I understand why he was created, almost like a caricature of what you're not supposed to be doing as a decent human being. And then also my least favorite character would still be All for One. But yeah, and that.
Yeah, I mean, Moneto's just gross. The only thing is, I think what really bothers me about Moneto is that basically yeah, he's a caricature of like that pervert who's in every anime. But also like he's still accepted, right? He's still accepted in society. He's still accepted by his peers. Like nobody actually puts their foot down and is like, no, if you're not gonna do different, you like and like perv on your classmates, your friends, mind you. These are his friends. These are not just like, girls he saw that were attractive, like strangers that, like objectifying strangers, is a little bit different than objectifying your actual friends and teammates, people you rely on, right? And so I think why I would disagree that I think he handled it right is that he did get the final speech, one of the final speeches in the big
Mm,
moment. And the
yeah.
thing is, if you're going to invalidate a character like Mineta, then you're going to not give him that moment. He's just going to stay a loser and he's going to be ostracized. That's how you handle somebody like that. Or he changes and he gets better. Like even Master Roshi in Dragon Ball Super. Now, everybody knows Dragon Ball, like Master Roshi is like super perverted, like from day one. He even had an arc where he had to get over being a pervert to be a better warrior in Dragon Ball Super. So, and this is like 30 years, 40 years in the making, okay? So if they could do something like that with a character that's so beloved and so like steeped in that like, archetype, I feel like Mineta should have also been handled very differently in My Hero. But yeah, All for One as well too. I think he was disappointing because I think it would have been much more interesting if like the hints was that he was basically obsessed with his brother, kind of, which is why he kept trying to like hold on to him. I think that they should have played that like obsession up, I think, a little bit more to give him a little bit more depth and make it more like, yeah, he actually loved his brother, but because of his personality, it wasn't the type of love that you want. I think that would have worked a little bit better and it would have been a little bit more nuanced because I think at the end he kind of felt like a caricature as well too. Like I think they were trying to like it felt like they were building to something a little bit more interesting, like what they did with all the other villains. But he ended up, I think, more than all the villains on the show, he ended up being a bit too dimensional in the end. So I think that would be like my main criticism with him. Obviously, I don't like him, but like as from a character standpoint, that was what was a little disappointing, controversial. I'm not a huge Bakugo fan. I'm not. I have to say it. I just like, you know what? By the end of it, like in the beginning, I actually really did dislike Bakugo, not gonna lie. But as the show progressed and I realized that, from fandom and all that kind of stuff, how popular he was and how like he was just gonna be, the other half of Midoriya basically at the end and all that kind of stuff. I got over it. Like I'm not big on Bakugo, but he's there. It's fine. I usually don't look for Bakugo, but yeah, I think there was a time where I would have been like, yeah, I strongly don't like this guy. That's why I like the whole rescue Bakugo arc really well because he's just kidnapped and away and everybody else is working together. So, yes. That's it for me.
So the thing with Mineta, I agree with you. I hated that he was allowed to be given that big speech at the end because I'm like, you didn't earn this. You did not earn the right to give this speech. Like that speech belonged to either Bakugo, Tang, oh my
Shoto.
gosh, it could have
Toka,
been
Ochako.
there was Ochako. It could have been Jiro. It could have been Shinso because Shinso was right there with them in the thick of things, working with Ejiro to bring down, the giant. And like it could have gone to my boy Ida. Like it could have, the speed running guy. It could have been gone to again Kirishima, because he was working with Shinso. Like Mineta was barely even utilizing the fight in the overall big fight, and I'm like, yeah, you don't deserve to have this big speech because I'm like, you didn't earn it. You were barely there, right? And so like I agree with you, Nat. Like I dislike that intensely. Well, not dislike it intensely, but I just thought it was an unearned moment. And I would
Right.
really love to know what the writer's thought process was for making him be the character to do it. And with regards to Bakugo, yeah, as I said, when I first watched My Hero Academia, I could not stand Bakugo because I do not like bullies and I hated him, and because he is a bully, he's a bully literally up until he gets kidnapped, and it takes his behind getting kidnapped for him to realize, shit, I need to do better, because he realized that he's not strong enough to actually beat villains on his own, because he thought that his explosion quirk was all he needed to become, not only to become a hero, but to be any villain he he could meet up, and then he met up on villains and say like, dude, you're a child, and he
Right.
got put in his place between because of that. And also because his arrogance, he didn't he was ashamed of being rescued because he thought he could get himself in that situation, and he realized that Deku has that Deku would always come and save him because that's just who Deku is as a person. Like Deku would do anything and everything possible to risk and rescue anyone. It's not just about Bakugo. And Bakugo had to realize like, oh, I need to change the way I am because I can't be a natural hero if I don't change the way I think. So like yeah, but even then it still takes him a while to be better. But I disliked Bakugo intensely the first time I watched My Hero Academia. It took my second watch to really watch how they were progressing his story and how they said in the previous episode, like his quirk is a manifestation of his personality is a manifestation of his quirk. Like all of their quirks and their personalities sync up. So like someone's quirk, like for instance, all for one, his quirk is taking other people's powers. So he has a very arrogant and a very self-obsessed and a very self-centered, narcissistic, sociopathic personality and outlook because that's how his quirk is, like his quirk thinks everything should be mine. I can do whatever I want with other people's quirk. So his personality and his ideology manufacture that. And I think he's great as a villain for that. Like, I think he's a really great villain in that he talks about narcissism. He talks about capitalism. If you look at Alpha One, I see Alpha One as like as a representation of all these tech bros and techno fascists that we see now, the Sam Altmans, the Mark Zuckerbergs, the Palantir people, the people would say Donald Trump. Donald Trump is way too simple of an example thing. Donald Trump is too easy a pick for a representation of who what All for One is. All for One is more subtle reference to people like Sam Altman, of like these techno fascists who use their greed, who want everything. They're never satisfied with whatever they have. They always want more. The Jeff Bezos, they're never satisfied. They always want more and more and more and more and more and more. And I think he's a great character. Like he's a well-written character for that. But with you, Ray, I also dislike him because he's just evil. Like he is the kind of villain that you just hate. And he's like Cersei. He's the Cersei of this. Like I could not stand Cersei. I could not stand Cersei.
Kind of,
Ray, talk about what you like.
I actually like the fact that we can collectively hate All for One without any holding back because, like Nat said, he is very self-obsessive, but also he has like the way they wrote his obsession with his younger brother was through the framework of like control. He loved his brother, but it was out of control. It was out of trying to control his brother. It wasn't out of love, right? It was not unconditional. It was conditional because if you can control him, then that's how you love him. That's not how it should be, right? And so I like that we finally have a because I feel like in anime villains are written in a way where we end up having to empathize and show sympathy and compassion for these so-called villains. But with All for One, it's like we have full range or full reign to dislike him, and I love that. I'm tired of like having to show this compassion for every character. I'm like sometimes I just want to have one character where I can be like, I don't like
You're the
him.
worst.
Right,
Yes.
and that's okay. And I can say that wholeheartedly. I don't like this character. I also want to pivot a little bit because I don't know if a lot of people talk about this character, but this character kind of bugged me for so long, and it is the what's his name? The belly button laser dude.
Oh,
Is it
yeah, I can remember
Aoyama?
his name.
Aoyama, right?
I'm looking up Aoyama. Yeah, he annoyed me so much.
Like I know at the end there was like
Yes.
some kind of redemption, but his cowardice personality matches Mineta in so many different ways. Mineta's
Aoyama, yeah.
this still feels very flat towards the end, but then with belly button laser, I think they try hard to give him like he was he was a traitor at one point, right? He was like on the other villain side, and but he had a reason to do so, and then towards the end it was like he no longer wants to be a hero, and that's fine, but it's like at the end of the show, I guess maybe I can get the answer from you guys, but I was like, what was his purpose? I couldn't really figure that part out, and I just gave up on trying to reason with it. But that was a character that kind of stood out to me when you asked me the question of like, which character don't you like? And I'm like, I still don't think I like Aoyama that much.
Yeah, I think his whole like working for the bad side, I don't think it was very effective. Mostly because he never stood out. Like, I think betrayal works better when you have a character that's like really popular, front and center, important to, the story in a way. Whereas he wasn't really that popular. I guess it could have been maybe like as a mirror for like Midoriya, because Midoriya at the end does lose his powers, and the fact that they both were born quirkless kind of shows like the difference in, like, it shows the strengths of Midoriya more so than it shows the weakness of Aoyama, to be quite honest. Like, I think that's kind of like his point at that juncture. But like, once again, it's one of those things where I don't know if it's because mangakas are like basically on life support by the end of their series, but I do feel it's like, with All for One, it's one of those things where you had kind of like a bit of a build up and then it really fell flat and it was not very interesting at the end. Because yeah, and then for him to like he does become a hero, but he works as like a sidekick to the invisible girl whose name I can't remember. Um and basically that's you did all of this, like, you had your parents work with a villain, you betrayed your friends, and now you're a sidekick to somebody who can't even be seen, and that's kind of like your end game. I don't know, like, the whole thing was really weird. Like, when you think about it, it's just like, okay, you did all this for that, sure, if that's what you guys want to do.
Well,
um,
so the Invisible Girl is Hagakure,
right.
um, or Toru Hagakure. But the thing with Aoyama, like, I'm with you guys. Like, he's a character that I couldn't really understand what his place in the story was, because he moves in and out. He's not really in their friends, the main what you call it, the main friend circle. Even though the thing with, I think that we said before, like with My Hero Academia, is like, I think they did a really good job like giving each of the students like their own storylines and enough time in each story and each episode where you don't forget them. But the thing with Aoyama is, I think what they were trying to do was show how another child that is born quirkless can end up on the opposite end of the spectrum. It can become a villain like Deku. Unlike Deku, like Deku, he was born without a quirk, and his mother didn't try to fix that. It's like, again, being born with a disability. His mother didn't try to fix his disability. She's like, you. This is the way you are, Deku, and like you're gonna learn to adapt and love this life that you have, and you're gonna use your lack of a quirk to your ability, which and his ability was learning to observe people. Like he became a master strategist because he spent so much time observing how people with quirks fought, how they interacted with each other, how the heroes and the villains fought, Whereas, so his mom was like, you maybe quote, I used to use the term disabled with regards to being quirkless, but that doesn't make you less than, that doesn't make you diminished. Whereas for Aoyama's parents, they were so concerned, oh my God, my son is quirkless, my son is disabled, I have to fix this. It's like going to a geneticist and saying, fix my son to make him genetically superior, and give him this. And in doing that, you actually harm him. And he may have a quirk, but the quirk physically harms him every time he uses it. Like he would get the severe stomach aches, and then like, and it kind of, and if you think about it, Deku's kind of, not Deku, Bakugo was kind of the same way. He had a personality kind of similar to Bakugo, where he's arrogant, but his arrogance is more aligned with his wealth because his family's rich, so he's very wealthy, and he speaks like someone who's I think he's supposed to be French, and so like his arrogance comes from this position of wealth and status, and that's kind of what makes him unlikable to us, because we're like, you are rich, you're pampered, you're self-centered, everything is about your looks, like look at everything has to be about his looks, and then we realize, oh, he is this way because his parents made him get this surgery that ultimately harmed him, and he never even asked for it. Like his parents could have taught him how to handle being quirkless, but they never did. They never gave him the opportunity to accept being without a quirk, and so he had to learn to adjust to that. And it always made him feel like an outsider. He felt less like he felt more of an outsider than Deku did. But I do agree. Like I think like they were struggling like Kohei, Hirokoshi and the writing team were struggling how to really integrate his story into it because the way how they introduce his story as him being the traitor, as him being the person that let the League of Villains came. You remember from the very first season, when they attacked them in the training session, they couldn't figure out like how did the League of Villains get in, and people were thinking that it was because of the journalists that went in and created that chaos, but turned out it was because Aoyama allowed them to get in. And I think like they didn't need to do that. I think they could have found a different way, but I guess they were also showing like how because his parents made that decision when he was a child, it forever bound him to somebody like All for One. Like
Mm.
they show the cost of tying yourself to someone who will always come collect at the end of the day. And it came with there's some becoming ostracized and feeling like he even talked about committing suicide. Remember, like when he was talking to All Might, he was referencing committing suicide because he's like, I don't want my friends to hate me. I am now finally beginning to be accepted by Deku, only for it to become out that I'm the traitor. I'm the one that's bringing all this chaos. And he was so despondent and depressed. He was like thought about committing suicide. All my and as well as Aizawa were like, no, you need to fix this. You need to atone for this. Right. So, but yeah, like the way how they integrated that into the story felt a little flat. Like they didn't know really what to do with him afterwards. So his story is interesting, but I think they needed like it didn't have enough depth until way too late in the story. It's almost like if they like with Ida's story, I think Ida's story arc came too early in the show, whereas I think his character arc came too late in the show in a
Mm.
way. Yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
Aoyama is a character that's all kind of forgettable, but I kind of see where they were going for it, and I can appreciate that they were kind of offer that the difference between being disabled and how parents handle their children being disabled. You know how different parents are like. Some parents wants to fix them, and some parents is like, "This is the way you are, and I accept you and love you for that."
Yeah, no, thank you for reminding me that both of you guys for reminding me that it was All for One who gave Aoyama that quirk, right?
Power, the quirk, yeah.
Yeah, all for one. Yeah,
It is interesting because if you like once you both of you compared Deku or Aoyama to Deku, it made a lot of sense because the way Deku gained his power was he didn't ask for it directly to All Might. All Might offered it. It was a gift.
Right.
Whereas Aoyama was like they begged for it. And then what did they end up with? Like it's like you're knocking on the door of the devil, and then you end up getting the devil's gift. And it's like it's a nice juxtaposition of like power is often you either earn it or you're given the power as opposed to people who beg for the power and they don't even know how to use that power, right? So that's interesting. So now I feel like I have my resolution. I have like that understanding now finally.
Like the thing is, I will say most anime, even the bad ones, have points. You know, they have things, themes, messages they're trying to get through. It's just the communication of it is usually the problem, okay? And so, like, the story, with regards to Aoyama, yeah, the story itself, it could be interesting, as a mirror, rather than as a foil, to Deku, because I think that, main villain guy, what's his name again? Um, Shiseki?
Wait, which guy?
Main villain guy. Is it
Shigaraki.
Shigaraki? Yes. So with Shigaraki, right? Shigaraki is more of a foil, I would say, in comparison to Aoyama, who is a mirror. So yeah, and then Bakugo itself is like Bakugo. I don't really get Bakugo. I'll be very honest, which is probably why, like, 'cause I just feel like I don't really agree or believe in his redemption arc. So I guess for me, you know, I wouldn't even know how to categorize him in regards to the story, right? Because Midori is clearly like, the tried and true, Superman type of hero, does everything right. Is and it's not even to say like he in a bad way, like I'm not mocking him, but he is very much like, the tried and true, hero for all. And which it makes sense because that's the power that he was inheriting, right? He was inheriting this sort of like not just the power, but the message, right? of being strong enough to help everybody. And this whole idea of inclusion as well too was very important because it's like it doesn't matter who you are, you know, where you're from, what your powers are like, you know, you're worthy and I'm here to protect you and to stand by you. And that was it was his point, right? Well, Bakugo, I didn't really know what his point was outside of yelling at everybody all the time. Like,
You know that Bakugo. So my one, my only reasoning when I was watching like the first few seasons where Bakugo was just so insufferable, is that I think maybe he is the personification of anger, and a lot of people, align anger with something only villains are capable of. Because if you're a hero, you can't be so angry. You can't be, you have to
hmm,
suppress that emotion so much. And I feel like
right,
Kohei kind of just like let that run and just like exaggerate that even more to a point where it's like, oh yeah, this character is so angry all the time, but it doesn't mean he's like he's a bad person. I mean, he's a bully for sure, bad person that way, but at the end of the day, he still wants to save people. It's just the way he handles things is just his execution strategies are just awful. But his end goal is still to be that hero in a very flashy kind of way. I mean, like look at his hero name; it's just like super long. No one's gonna remember it,
right,
but what people do remember is how angry he's always been, right? So that's just my own like way of reasoning why I shouldn't fully hate Bakugo. Bakugo
right,
is like my little nephew. I see him as potential to be someone who's good, and obviously, Deku doesn't owe Bakugo any kind of emotional support, even though he's a friend, but he's not there to be like, I will soothe you every single time you're angry.
right,
That's not Deku's
right,
job. But it's nice to see how um, the loudest person is the one who needs to be saved, as opposed to like the quiet one needs to be saved. It's like Deku's the one who's saving Bakugo every time. The first episode, it's about saving Bakugo from the slime, and then when he's kidnapped, it's about saving Bakugo. And then I think there's one movie where Bakugo also needed saving, right? So it was kind of nice to see that juxtaposition of like that loud person that wants to take up all the space in the room is the one that needs saving, and it's like we get to see all these angles from the show, which is really nice.
Hmm. Yeah, something you said just now actually made me actually because I have the fan wiki page turned open, right? So I'm looking at the character cards. You know, each of them has a different color. And what you said just now, like I said before, like Bakugo, like their quirks represent their personality, but you said like he represents anger. And now that I'm looking at the page, I'm here like I think all these characters actually represent different emotions as well. And so, like, he has anger. And I think he also represents not just anger, but also teenage angst. Because remember, these are teenagers. So he's like a angsty teenage male who's going through puberty. So he's just like edgy for no goddamn reason. He's just angsty and edgy. Even when he's happy, he's still like, because he's like a prepubescent teenage boy. You know, he's going through a hormonal change. But I'm here looking at the thing. I'm like, wait a minute. You know, I think their personalities, but these kids individually also represent different emotions as well. Because like Tanya Ida, he's like earnestness, you know, he's like serious. He represents ones like who takes responsibility. Suyu, who's my girl, the frog, Froppy, she's someone who thinks logically. She's good under pressure. You know, Mina Ashido, the purple girl who break dances for no reason, she represents to me spontaneity because she's always breaking out into dance for some reason. Even Yuga Aoyama, as I said, he kind of represents insecurity. He's a very insecure character. My boy Kirishima, he is like a goal getter, you know, like that's his thing. Like he never lets anybody like distract him from his goals. Denki Kaminari, who has a power of electricity, he is someone who's like a misfit. He fits in, but he doesn't quite fit in where really, you know, he's never sure like how people feel about him. My boy Ojiro is one character that always gets overlooked. He's the one that has the tail, and he's again he's like a wallflower, right? You know, Uraraka, she's optimism. Like she has a goal and she's very optimistic. My Koji Koda is like shyness, and like Shoji Mezzo, who's the one the heteromorph with the arms. Like again, that's the character that can be overlooked until you realize that he actually plays a very big important role in the characters, because you realize that all of these characters actually depend on Shoji a lot. Like they each trust Shoji. And so like now I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, each of these characters represent different emotions and different like different facets of like teenage experiences, so like ask Curie, you maybe then what was Shoto be? Shoto is like resentment. Shoto is resentment. And
Yeah,
like
Shoto also
Hagakure,
has like two elements, right? So it's almost like he's constant in a state of needing to balance a lot of things,
mhm.
Right.
school, family, and then also like ice and fire, and then just I love his character. I love his character.
Yes, he's such a well-made character. Like Hanta Zero, that's the one with the tape. Flexibility. He's the one that has to, that's like people he represents, people who always have to be flexible in whatever situations. Toru Hagakure, she's invisible. So she's like a young girl who like a lot of young girls, they feel invisible in their lives, like people like, and if you look at Mineta is always wondering what she looks like. And she doesn't want anyone to wonder what she looks like. She's like, I don't want to be seen for my body. I want to be just seen for my personality. So I kind of think that's what she kind of represents to me. She's like, I just want to be a girl. Just let me be a girl. Like, don't think about what size breasts I have, what if how pretty I am, how long my hair is. I just want to exist as a girl, right? So I kind of like, and like and then there's like my girl, Yao Yoruzo. She's like the one that she's kind of like the again this the flip side of Hagakure, where people know she's good looking, she has a nice body, but she's extremely intelligent, she's a genius. And so she kind of represents that, how people underestimate girls and women just because they're pretty, so like, yeah, so like I didn't think about it before, but now I'm looking at the character charts. I'm like, they actually do represent a lot of different things too. This is why My Hero Academia is my favorite anime.
Good, yes.
Yes, Nat. So what is our next? What will we discuss next, Nat?
I guess we can go through like the plot a little bit more, and sort of, highlights, lowlights, just any interesting parts of the story. Like in terms of just like, do you have like a favorite season? Do you have a favorite arc? I will say my favorite arc beside is like the whole when they went to that overnight school thing, and then Bakugo gets kidnapped. Like that whole arc, I think, had me at the edge of my seat because of how real things got so quickly. And it was like these kids were like, they had been tested before, but this was like a whole level up from the last tragedy that they had experienced, right? And that's when we meet Dabi for the first time. And that's when we see also too, just like we learn more about victims of these heroes, because it's like, yeah, you're a hero and you're out there risking your lives, but when you die, who gets left behind, right? And so we got to see like, because Deku is very big about like, oh, being a hero is so amazing. This is what I want to do, blah, 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 blah. But there are so many negatives that come with risking yourselves for strangers, basically, at the end of the day, right? Like you're doing the right thing. But how do you say that to a 5-year-old who has no parents, right? So we saw that, and also too, like we had like a pro lose their powers literally,
Mhm.
through the end of this story, right? So I think that was like one of the like that's my favorite arc, I think, to this day, especially because the end was, All Might passing, like basically pointing to Midoriya and being like, it's all up to you now. So yeah, I think that's my favorite arc so far. Well, like for the whole show anyways. What about you guys?
Yeah, Ray.
I think for me that arc was so incredible because I think that was like the first time where they were not in a setting where adults can step in easily. Like
Right.
this, what's a Universal Studio-esque place. Like
Right.
it was meant for them to have field experience. But then the camping trip, it was like it was meant for them to actually relax, and then all that ensued, and then it was just like it was really wild. And then I think one of the most riveting part of the whole series is when we finally get to meet All for One, and then the students finally got to witness what his powers were like. I remember like it was I think it was Ida,
Hmm.
Deku, maybe Ochako who were like behind that wall, and then when
Mm.
All for One came out and then he basically obliterated and like one chunk of the city, they were like, oh my God, this is like real stuff right now. Like we can actually die as students. And I think that's such an important part to understand about heroes is that especially I think in American culture, we see heroes as undefeatable. You can't knock them down. They are fearless. They're brave. But it's like you also have to understand how heroes, like you said, Nat, like they put their lives on the line for strangers. They are scared too, and I think that was a nice moment for us to understand. Like, oh wow, not only are they kids, but then they also now understand like they're in line to enter this profession where they will feel this type of fear almost every single day, and it's like it's nice to kind of see that side of things.
For people who are like, what arcs are these? I was mentioning the forest training camp arc
Mm.
and the hideout raid arc. I actually talked about it like it was arc. I think it was like one season, but it's actually two different arcs. And I think Ray was more referencing the hideout raid arc because that's when they meet All for One all for the first time, right? That's what you were
Yes.
referring to?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and that was the hideout raid arc because that's when they were going after him to get Bakugo, who had been still kidnapped at that point. So I think a lot of My Hero fans would like say that's probably one of the best arcs of the show.
That whole run was just like
Right,
I
right.
agree. I was at the edge of my seat. I was like I was skipping the end credit scene. I was like, I need the next episode right now. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I think the forest training camp art and it's three because it's three. Is it? Because I'm here looking, so it's three episodes. It's three arcs, but they cover like three to three to like four episodes because that arc comes after the hero killer arc where Stain is introduced, right? And
Right.
so what I think is so interesting about the forest training camp art, which I think is a fantastic, I agree with you guys, it is a fantastically written and developed story, is that that it comes after the hero killer arc, right? So the hero killer arc, this is where Stain is introduced, and he's a guy who has a quirk, and his quirk is blood. And again, he's kind of like Tenko. Like Tenko has a quirk with blood too. He's a villain because he wants heroes to be better, and he has
Right.
all of these expectations of what heroes should be. He's like, heroes should be altruistic. Heroes shouldn't be, he doesn't think should be getting paid. Like a hero should be doing this for the love of the game. And it's like, you're asking people to risk their lives. There has to be some kind of like, not that you're asking them to pay people for saving life, but like they need to be able to provide for themselves. But he doesn't care about that. He's just thinking ethically, like you morally, like you're a hero. The hero idea of a hero in my head is one who risk everything with no expectation of reward, right? And he has very, very, very high and skewed standards of what a hero is. And in that, he injures Tanya's brother. His brother is permanently paralyzed. And so like the forest training arc coming after that, where Tanya gets to see, because remember, like the kids know that Tanya's brother Ingenium is paralyzed, but they don't actually see him paralyzed. Tanya
Right.
does. And he always has that in his head that his brother is not permanently disabled because of his work as a hero. And the fact that Tanya takes on the Engenium mantle makes him have this extra weight and burden of trying to be as protective as possible, because he's drilling into their heads in the forest training art. Like, guys, listen to what the teachers are saying. We're supposed to be doing this, because he becomes not more militant, but he becomes even more strict as a leader after his brother is injured, right? So the forest training art coming after, with the others finally get to see the reality of what being a hero is like, like because Shoto, Tenya, and Deku, they fought Stain, so they think, but they didn't see the after effects of what Stain did, they didn't see Tenya's brother. Tenya did. So like going into the forest training art, like they understand fighting real villains now. They have from the very beginning, because the show just plopped the League of Villains inside from the very beginning. They've been fighting villains from the get-go, but as you mentioned, Ray, when they're in the UA facilities, that's still a controlled environment. Like they know explosions are still controlled by a switch. That the teachers have these things carefully planned out to minimize as much destruction as possible. Whereas in the forest training arc, they're realizing, shit, this is reality. There's no training facility here that is in a carefully controlled environment. Our teachers aren't there to flip a switch if things get out of hand. And like they're finally getting, and then that happening, the forest training arc again. Like I love that Deku finally has that realization of another cost of being a hero, which is like you die and you have a kid. Your kid will resent you being a hero because you died. Your kid does not care that you died saving other people when you've left them there alone. So again, with you, Nat, that's also one of my favorite aspects of that arc. And that's also where Todoroki, he's finally learning to work with the others because again, like his quirk is his shadow quirk is so unique that they were still trying to figure out like how do we work with Tokoyami and his quirk, and that's where they finally start to realize, we can use his shadow, his darkness as a plus, because like before that, Tokoyami always kind of saw darkness as his weakness because that's when he would lose control of dark shadow. But that's where Deku was like, actually, we can make this work for us in this situation. So a lot of really great things came out of forest training. And then that came, and right after that comes the Hideout Raid arc, where again, as you said, like Tenya, Deku, and is it Shoto?
Momo.
And yeah, Momo, where they see
Momo,
for
yeah.
one. And it's not only that they see All for One as this, because the thing is like, again, when we're introduced to All Might, one of the things that both Deku and Bakugo do, they watch this video of All Might fighting villains, and the villain that he's fighting is never really explained until later in the season. But the villain that he's fighting in that video that he comes out saving people from is the fight with All for One. Right? And so like they've always only seen All Might as this hero who defeated this great villain, and now they're finally realizing this is a villain that All Might fought and won. They had this hero vision of All Might all of these years, but they didn't understand the cost that fighting this villain came. They idolized this man without even understanding the true cost, and the cost came of his life. And this is because not only did they get to see All for One, they saw the cost of that fight for All Might personally. This is where his power ran out, where he couldn't maintain the body. And they finally saw like this man is severely disabled. He almost died. He was a hair's breadth away from death in this fight with All for One. And so the kids not only see that, but the entire nation sees, the entire planet, because it becomes global news, and people really start to realize, the cost of being a hero is not only death or disability or becoming paralyzed, but like you can still function, but like you're still not where you were, so they kind of see like if you think about it, All Might is kind of like caught between life and death in a way. He exists kind of like in a personal purgatory, because for just a few hours he can maintain his All Might persona, but once those few hours are up and he goes back to this broken body, like that's like he's caught in a state of purgatory. And that's one of the reasons I love these three particular arcs, because I kind of see them as like sort like intertwined with each other. And I'm like, this is one of the things I love about this darn show, because like in the midst of all, that's where again they discuss like what makes a hero and what is the personal cost of a hero. Can you be a hero knowing that that this is a potential outcome, that you can become paralyzed, that you can die, that you can become severely disabled, and that when you become severely disabled, when people see that reality, they judge you for it and see you less than, like can you as a hero, can you do this? Can you be a hero? So that's why I love these three. Like this, and this is all in the first freaking season. Like this is such a fantastic opening season. And like when you think about it, like I'm like
I forgot that was season 1.
Was that the first season? No, that
all in season 1.
That would have been like season 3, no? Season 4?
No, that's all in season 1. The Hideout Raid arc is season 1, because season 2 is the Rise of the Villain Saga.
No. Season 1 is when he goes to UA and they have the UA Sports Festival.
Yeah, and episode and the final. Let me, because I'm here looking at the thing. So like season 1, the UA Sports Festival is episode 5, and the Forest Training Camp arc is episode 8 of season 1. Because season 2 is where they do like they go to hero training. They have like the arcs with the kids, they do like the pro hero arc. They go on their internships and all of that. That's in season 2. Season 3 is the dark hero. Oh, you know what? Maybe I'm wrong.
Because
you know what?
Okay.
Oh, okay. I take that back. I think you're right because you know what I'm looking at because I'm here looking at the contents and the way how it's listed. I'm thinking in my head that these are episodes of the seasons, but it says it's 3, but that don't make no sense because it's 8 seasons. Okay, I'm wrong. I take that back. You're right, Nat.
Yeah, okay.
You're right.
Because I
No,
was
because
like,
in my
wait, they
head,
do
I
a
was
lot
like,
of stuff
yeah, no,
They
in
I
the
was
do
like,
do a
beginning
no,
of
lot
the
in the
show.
season. What's the
can't
what season
be.
is this? You know what, Marie? Hold on.
No,
Oh, okay. I think because the way how they're listed for the manga and for the anime is different. That's why.
oh, okay.
I think
Fair
that's
enough.
why I was
Yeah.
getting confused. Oh, okay, yeah. I was getting confused. I thought the numbers I was seeing were representative of the season and the episodes per season, but no. I take that back. You're right.
Okay. Okay. I did want to mention the Heroes versus the Liberation Army arc. I thought that was like a really big, like our first taste of what like an all-out war with
Mm,
the heroes versus the villains look like. And I really liked as well with that, it showed the wins and the losses on both sides. And like the fear, the anxiety, the, heartbreak, when, people that you care about die, literally die in front of you. And like a reminder, these are children who are still in school. So I thought that was like a really like pretext to the final battle, right? Where you're also because I feel like the final battle was really just everybody versus All for One, and like they had some villains in there, but it wasn't the big grand scale like it was with the Liberation Army. So I would say that's like also a standout season or arc, sorry.
yeah, because that's where the arc where Midnight dies, right?
Yeah, which I thought was bullshit.
I was so
I
pissed when
mean,
she died. I was like, "What are you talking about?"
It may not,
like, why
it didn't make
her?
any sense. Like,
I think
Yeah,
she died because they needed someone that the kids actually knew and were close to die.
she,
Versus
yeah,
because a lot of other heroes died, but they needed someone that the kids were close to where they can feel that absence. They'll
right.
always know like this person is gone because this person died, and that they on that's where they it's hit home that death is permanent. There is no coming back from death. There is no redemption. There is no rejuvenation. There's no healing. Like the healing girl can only heal so much. She like death is permanent. You can't bring back someone from death, which is why we're back when Bakugo his heart stops. That's why when all the kids see it, like they understand that if Bakugo isn't revived, they understand that loss, and I think that's why Midnight dying before then really brings home for these kids, like they understand if Bakugo cannot be revived by a shot, that's it. So I think that's why I was pissed. I was pissed.
I have a question then. Like, who do you think should have died then instead? Like, if you had to pick somebody, because I mean, like, if this was any other anime, like, because, I did mention before, I thought, like, My Hero was a bit more on the naive, Disney side of things. But, like, say, I'm not saying it has to be like JJK or Attack on Titan, because everybody basically dies there. But, like, if this was like an in-between anime, and somebody had to die.
Gojo,
Specifically,
why you have to bring in Jujutsu? No, I'm thinking about
it
Gojo.
would have to be someone from the school, right?
I was about
Because
to say, like, yes, go.
because that's how the kids would have a deeper connection with them. It
Right.
wouldn't be anyone who's like the top 10 heroes or whatever. Because initially I thought maybe like the wood guy, but then he's not an instructor, so the students didn't even know who he was until they were in the field.
Mm,
So I guess in a way, Midnight did offer the students the most out of classroom attention, like non-school related attention. She almost felt like a mother figure in the school, and to me, I'm like, is that
Right.
just for her to be dead? I feel like that shouldn't be, right? Because like, why kill motherly characters? Um, so yeah, I don't know. I was thinking like the microphone guy, the DJ dude.
Present Mike. I was thinking Present Mike as well too, because I feel like he had more presence than Midnight did, right? Overall, because he did all the announcements and he was always that up lucky go, like happy go lucky guy, whatever. Like, so it would have been actually kind of interesting if something like if he died and if it was one of those like really poignant deaths in the show. But also like I wouldn't want Shota to be like sad. So he already lost one friend. to this
Yeah,
villainy. Like, like I don't want him to lose another buddy. But what about somebody in class 1A?
like a student.
Like a student?
That would have
Because that's the
been.
thing. In any other anime, a student would have died.
I'm sorry, Minetta. I think you're going.
I mean, would they?
Wouldn't make an
No, we
impact
know.
though. It would not make an impact if it's Minetta
Yeah.
though.
And they would have ended up venerating him, even though he's the
It, it
worst.
it could be Acid Girl.
Mina.
Because
Mina.
Mina, it
Yeah,
could be Mina. Like she's like the ball of sunshine in the whole friend group.
that's true.
If you were to go, I think that would leave a really lasting impact on everyone. Um, yeah.
What about Injin? Because he did peak arc-wise in the very beginning of the
Tanya,
show,
no,
and he
Tanya's,
kind of meandered for the rest of it. Like,
but
to be honest.
he's still like their class leader. You know, he's still someone on their level that they look to as a leader. So like they have the teachers, but they needed someone on their level to be like a leader. So like Tanya serves that. And I was just thinking, so like one of the reasons I think Midnight makes sense is not only because she's like a mother figure and a teacher, but she was also the person that was there when they gave themselves their hero names. So like she's like part of like their identity. She was like guided them to name it themselves. So when you think about it, like her death is very impactful that way because she was there when they became essentially heroes,
A really good
like you
point.
are becoming a hero when you pick a name. And so she was there for that, President Mike and Aizawa were, so like it makes sense that she served that purpose and she would always remind them like there is a cost for being a hero, but then also the kids also do suffer personal loss because like Uraraka, she was literally connected to Himiko when she died. She serves that. Shoto, he understands death can take time. Like when Dabi eventually dies, Dabi dies takes a very long time to die. And so like Shoto
Wait,
has that connection to death, right?
Dobby didn't die though, right?
Not in the
Oh, that means
anime, but like he dies eventually.
Okay, okay.
So like the kids, because by the end of the season, remember there's like this special episode where it's like jumps forward 8 years. Dabi is gone, right? So Shoto has that experience with death. So each of them have an experience with death differently, And for like Hawks, like when with
Twice.
Twice, like the kids see how like people judge Hawks for that, for Twice dying. So like they get to experience death in different ways. And like for goodness sakes, when Kirishima almost died when he was fighting to go and save Eri. He himself was this close to death. So he has a personal experience with like having the Grim Reaper knocking at his door. And he'd be like, I almost didn't make it. I almost did not make it. And the other thing with the hero arc the arc that you mentioned I like that arc because of my guy his hero name is Tentacle, but his character, that's where we really see like his character really bloom and like him become a leader. But then also like he talks about again like the discrimination, the people that heteromorphs have. So that's another reason why I like that arc, because it really shows like in a society where we already know that people without quirks are discriminated against, but we also see like even people with heteromorphs are who have quirks are discriminated against because of how their quirks manifest. So like they talk about discrimination that way and like racism, and that's another reason why I really like that arc. But then if you think about the heroes liberation thing, that kind of shows like how people form factions because they're fed up with a system that they think isn't working for them. And like the idea is good, but the execution is horrible. Because if you look at what's happening in our
yeah.
world now, we're like, we need revolutionaries. And they're kind of like that, but the people that are leading them and inspiring them are working to basically backstab them. These people have a genuine thing about wanting their world to be better, about being heteromorphs and wanting to be accepted as heteromorphs. But the people that they think are their leaders are actually working against them on the slide. So that's another reason I like that arc. It's a very mature arc when you really think about it, because it really talks a lot about revolution. It talks about how revolutionary acts can start, and like talks about social oppression and government oppression, and how governments can leave their people by the wayside, and people will form like these movements to change. But like it shows like if the movement doesn't have a solid foundation, it will fall apart. you know. So and like you can have like charlatans leading people who have genuine concerns, but the people leading them are leading them astray. Again, kind of looking at Donald Trump and how he's leading his MAGA people, you know, kind of when you look at it that way.
Yeah, I like Mezzo Shoji, to be honest. He's the Animorph who becomes like the sort of like the icon for the I keep saying Animorphs. I really do like that book series, not gonna lie. But he becomes the face of this movement, right?
Mhm.
Um, because let's see, because he becomes the number nine hero at the
Mhm.
end of the series. And also too, like they showed him winning some sort of award, like international award for the work that he was doing.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, I think that yeah, I don't know, like I really like this arc as a, um, you know what arc I was not that impressed about, like in hindsight, the Airy arc with Overhaul.
I was gonna ask about that because I do forget about that occasionally, and then I'll think about like Eri at the end of the series. I'm like, all right, she's kind of important. Like she has this incredible power, but it was really talking about like trafficking and that doctor was just an awful person till
Right.
the very end, I believe, right? Or am I misremembering that?
No, no, you're right. Like they were basically she was trafficked, you know, she was taken and she was taken for her powers and they psychologically abused her and tortured her for years as a child. And it does talk about how children are the most vulnerable people and people with power, instead of protecting her, they hurt her. You know, they didn't see her their humanity. And that's like when that Yakuza guy, his grandfather was like, "What are you doing? Like, why would you think that this is okay? She's a child, you know." And like again, this is kind of talking a little bit about heroes and villains. Like this, the Yakuza are looked at as villains by the police, but it was actually the Yakuza who was trying to protect this child. They were like, "We need to get her," you know. Like when they came in, they was like, "You get her out because she's a child. What the fuck are you?" Excuse my language, but like you know, but yeah, Aaron, I really like that art again because that's where Sun Eater gets introduced, and he just kicks ass in
Sun
that fight
Eater
scene.
gets introduced too.
Yeah, like that's I'm like he's worth it for that arc. Like he kicks so much ass in that fight sequence and then again that's again where Deku where the sequence I also really just from a artistic perspective like that arc where his Deku's power keeps fluctuating because he's touching Eri. I just think that was a really well done art, just artistically. Like the animation for that was really interesting, where you watch his body break and heal, break and heal, break and heal. And again, that's kind of reflecting his entire storyline where he keeps pushing his body to boundaries to break them to save people. And again, that sequence is asking like how far are you, Deku, willing to go to save people? But like there has to be a limit on like and it's like death. For him, it's like if this kills me, I will do it. You know, and it's interesting to see a teenager, a child be that resolute that quickly. You know, like he's always been like that. He from the beginning with the slaving the sludge Bakugo from the Sludge Team. He didn't know what that monster was gonna do. He was like, I could die, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And that's something that has been consistent with Deku from the beginning. He's like, I will do whatever it takes to save people, even at cost. And I think that's one of the things about Deku that makes him a really interesting character, is like he's always known who he was, and he always had this conviction from the very beginning. It's just that there's other things that he had to learn. He never had to learn how to become convicted to save people. It was other things that he had to learn, like protecting himself. Where because like All Might was like, dude, like you can't keep doing this to yourself because like what how can you save people if your body is broken constantly, you know? And like what good is that gonna what about your mom? I always like that it always reminded him like your mom is there. What is gonna happen to your mom, you know? So yeah.
I just for the overhaul arc, right? Like I feel like that arc was mostly created to introduce Ares power because they needed it, obviously, in the future. But the Yakuza were the like, I mean, she was like the granddaughter of the head of the of Yakuza, right? And so when the grandfather was like the boss guy when he was hospitalized, right? That's when Overhaul took over, right? So they were the bad guys in the season, no? Am I remembering that
No, they were Yakuza. They're still bad guys. But like they were talking about degrees of badness. You know, they're like, we're Yakuza, we're bad. But like we never torture a child bad. You know, that they were kind of like
but were they not
talking
torturing a
degrees of
child?
badness. Hmm?
Were they not torturing a child? Because the head of the Yakuza was Overhaul and that
Wait, okay, so I'm
fighting?
thinking, so like there's Overhaul, but I'm thinking of the granddad, the like the original Yakuza boss. That's what I'm thinking of. Like he's the one that was like saying, what the hell are you doing?" And because he was incapacitated, he couldn't really help. But like that's why like when things come near, like let the police in, like the police like they're like that way, like take his ass to prison. But you know what? Yeah.
I feel like, am I
Okay, because
bad?
I was like, am I remembering this wrong? Because I was like, wait, I feel like the
Thinking of
Yakuza were the bad guys
granddad
here.
as the head. I really keep thinking of Overhaul. You know why? Because I keep forgetting that his name is freaking Overhaul, and I that's why.
I feel like
Okay.
I'm a bad viewer, bad fan of the show because I'm like, I don't the name Overhaul doesn't ring a bell.
It's
And
the
then
one with the beak, the one with
The
Yakuza's
guy
like,
with the beak and the feather kind of like jacket, mini jacket.
and his outfit
And
is interesting to me because you
yeah,
know those beaks were worn by the doctors during the Black Plague
witch
and
doctors.
during the witch doctor the doctors during the Black Plague. So it was interesting that how they kind of inserted that steampunk aspect and that reference to the plague and his and like
he's a
basically when you think about
germaphobe.
his he's a germaphobe.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
and it went, even though his powers were breaking people down, like so he's kind of like Dabi, not Dabi, what's his face? Shigaraki in that way. So again,
Yeah.
like
Right.
a lot of these characters are mirrors of each other in like their powers and their personalities and their or I should say flip side of the same coin of a lot. So like Overhauling is kind of like Shigaraki in some ways. Like they both can break people down, but like differently and for different reasons. And like
But also
Overhauling.
too, I guess if you're talking about being a mirror, which makes sense actually, because I think one of the strengths of the show is that like everything that we saw from the heroes, we also saw from the villains, right? Like the
Yeah.
heroes, we saw them level up power wise. We also saw that for the villains. So if we have mirrors for Midoriya, then of course we're going to have a mirror for Shigaraki. And if Overhaul, that is actually what Overhaul kind of introduces because he's also, like you said, similar powers, and he's also a actual bad guy, but he doesn't have the same sort of backstory, the same kind of manipulation that we saw with Shigaraki, right? And the fact that, like, he Overhaul being a part of the Yakuza is kind of like a brotherhood, right? And if the old boss, was like a decent-ish guy for a Yakuza person, then he didn't have the loneliness that Shigaraki had. He didn't have all of those negative lived experiences that would have made him the asshole that he was. But Overhaul was an asshole, right? He was like an actual villain. Like, not to say Shigaraki wasn't a villain, but in terms of like, I mean, he was, kidnapping and doing experiments on a child. So,
Mhm.
like, yeah, he's one of the worst villains on the show, actually,
I
in
have
that
to look it
regard.
up. I now remember. I'm
Yeah,
like, because the name Overhaul doesn't match with
right.
the character
I
design for some reason.
Yeah, I didn't understand why they chose that name for him because that name doesn't really.
But
I
he's
could
the guy
never understand.
who took Ares' powers to create the quirk destroying bullets, right? Like once you
Right,
Yes,
strike it, you lose your quirk.
right.
Okay.
Yes.
yeah, but I
So
could never.
I like technically from a story perspective, the arc is really important. And Carrie mentioned the visuals. I will say that final battle when they were like, because they were underground, right? And when they were like outside in the sky and stuff, I remember that being visually stunning.
It
Yes,
was.
like everything was beautiful for sure. But I do feel like that story was just there to introduce, as I said, a mirror, but also just like a reason for the bullets. Like, and the fact is, like, if you're talking about Japanese society, you're going to talk about the Yakuza. So I guess we needed to know what they were doing at this part. Though, I will say, like, also, I would say one of my favorite scenes, and I think one of the most chilling scenes was when Midoriya and Ochako went to the mall and Shigaraku finds him. And that's when Shigaraku's at that turning point where he's like, I don't have a reason to be a villain. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I know I guess I want to be a villain because that's my thing. And he kind of I think what they did really well in that scene, especially in like the beginning of the show more so, is that the fear, right? Because they're children and they're playing at adults, right? Like they're training to be adults who save people. And I just thought like we were talking about like, the scenes that were really like effective. I thought that scene in the mall was very effective because I do recall it like whenever I think about the show, as like one of the more terrifying moments in the series. That and
Yeah.
discovering, Alpharon's powers, of course.
One wrong, it could be another Shibuya incident, right?
Right.
Like literally, you have a lot of humans within their vicinity, and if Shigaraki didn't feel like he wanted to be a good person in a split second, he could have easily wiped out the entire mall, and then that could be like something scary for the children to witness, children as in the students, right, of UA to witness. So I
Mhm.
agree. Like I still remember that scene a lot because it was like Shigaraki stood there, and then I think Deku was standing next to him. He didn't realize
Mhm.
like Shigaraki was there because he had a hoodie on, and it was like, oh my gosh, he's right next to me. He's the guy I'm looking for. And so yeah, I agree. That's very chilling. But also, I going back to the overhaul slash Eri arc. I remember. I feel like that was when Lemelian and then
Yes.
the higher classmen were introduced. So it was like,
Right.
oh, we have another Deku character. Where it's like Lemelian, I feel like was designed to be another hero that people should focus on because it was like, oh, he also had the same mentality as Deku. Like he'll never stop to protect people, and he ended up becoming the guardian for Eri. But then I also love how the scene you mentioned earlier, where I think it was Overhaul who was creating all those like explosions, and then Deku with Eri on his back, causing him to break down but heal instantly, and then he was flying to the air, and then it was Lemelian's cape that kind of like served as like the protecting veil for
Right.
them. So I was like, oh, that's
Right.
such a beautiful scene. The lighting was perfect in that the
Right.
animation. So good.
Absolutely. Yeah, Lemillion is kind of interesting because he is a Deku. And remember, he was actually who they were going to give the power to, right? All Might was going to choose him as his successor. And that's what caused the split with him and his sidekick, who I just remembered also died. So there you go. Another person who's important to the story who died.
Wait, who?
Uh, All Might's former
Oh,
sidekick died, right?
yeah, the one who can
Um,
see the future.
Yes, yeah. Who saw like the end of All Might and was really basically they broke up because of that reason. Because he's like, "Don't go down this road, you're gonna die." And so yeah, so I think with Lemillion, and he actually ends up becoming the number one hero at the end of the series too. Uh, which is what everybody would have expected Midoriya to be, right? But he's like Midoriya if Midoriya had a quirk, like his own like natural quirk. I think that's who he would have been.
Yeah, I like
Um,
him, and I just don't like his face. I'm so sorry. Like,
his animation style, very
yeah,
flat.
it just
Yeah.
like has a very like a Anpan Man style or like
Yeah,
Yes.
I think he's a reference to Tintin, the character Tintin, because
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the thing with My Hero Academia, like there's a lot of pop culture references to films and characters from not only America but from like in Japanese thing. So like if you look at it, like specific characters are designed to look like specific characters. Like there's the character who is in the Liberation Front who also joins the villain here. Are he literally looks like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, you know, and
he
Yes.
looks like
his name is a reference to the sensei of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? His name is a I think a play on Cutter. Um,
You mean
I think
Shredder?
Shredder. So his
Yeah.
name is a reference to Cutter, right? And to thing, and also I think Lemanian is a reference to Tintin. And if
yeah,
you know, and the character of Tintin, his this is a character who flies everywhere, and he can be is considered like multinational or like he flies everywhere and does all these adventures. And the Melian's power is that he is everywhere and nowhere at once. Because remember, he can exist in between atoms and between spaces, and he always has to be very cognizant and careful of where he is consciously. Like he has to consciously think about putting down every step that he is, because he can, as he said, he fall into the earth and he never stop falling, right? So I think his character is a very complex character concept wise. I like kudos again to Kohei just coming up with all these quirks, because he's like, I want a character like, what's this character's quirk? He exists everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Because if you think of physics, like existing to be able to move through spaces and atoms on an atomic level, level means that you are existing in between time and space. So like that's Lemenian. So that's why his name. When I first watched that game, what's his name Lemenian? But then when I think about it, like he can exist through thing objects subatomically. So like
Yeah,
he's
because
almost
it's
infinite in a way, right? So like
yeah.
he's a very complex. He does look very silly, but that's again I think why the character behaves very silly. Like his introduction to Deku is his face popping out the ground, and scaring the Jesus out of him, right? But I love that character. I love that he takes on guardianship of Eri. Like he's like again, these are teenagers, so he's older, so he's about 18, 19, and he takes on immediate guardianship of Eri. And that's not only in saving Eri, but like I just said, like when he gives Deku the cape, and the cape is what saves Eri and Deku. And a cape is that he gives Deku. Something I love about this character too is that Deku always shows respect to the people in his lives. Like every single person he meets means something to him. Like the reason he keeps his costume is because he never wants to change the overall design of the costume because it's a representation of his mom's love for him. She made his first costume, and he's like, I don't care how popular I get. I want my costume to always reflect my mom's costume for me. And that cape for Lemenian, it eventually got destroyed, but then he took on uh Gran Turismo's cape, right? So like he kept Gran Turismo's cape as an homage to him, but also as an homage to Lemenian, right? So that's one of the things I loved about this series. Like we see like how for Deku, every single person he meets means something in his life. Whereas unlike Naruto just goes along forgetting people and people mean shit to him. Like we talked
You
about
know,
Naruto. I'm not gonna harp on Naruto, but
the thing about Naruto is that once again, these mangakas, they have really good introductions and they have things that they want to do and say, but the execution of the story is the problem, right? And follow through, obviously.
no fault.
Um, but back to my hero.
Well,
Uh,
before we continue,
yes.
like we've been going for a while, we might have to do a second episode, another episode, because we haven't even talked about ships, and we haven't talked about Dabby and Endeavor, and we haven't talked about.
Okay, Dabi, Endeavor, the whole Todoroki family should have its own time, to be quite honest with you.
So I'm thinking we might need to do another episode, so we can do
Because
another
that
episode talking about Dabby.
story,
It's such an important storyline, and I think
yeah,
it's so deep, and I think it does deserve time because I honestly I am so impressed about how they managed to turn around Endeavor as a character from an abuser. You know what I mean? Like I am so impressed about what those writers did with his character because I'm like he was like excuse my language a perfect asshole. And I'm like, by the end, you just feel for this man, and it's not gratuitous. Like it's earned. Like his redemption arc is earned. So I think, yeah, that story and Shoto and like his mom and what his mom and his siblings went through, and then talking about ships and all that, it does deserve another episode. We said two, but you know what? This is our podcast. So we can do whatever
I
we
am
want. Damn it!
more too, so I agree. I'm happy too.
the Todoroki family is my favorite part of the show. So,
I love it. I love it, and I love it even more when I found out that Dobby is part of the family. I knew there's something with the with the flames.
right,
I was
right.
like, then he made it blue to throw us off, and I was like, oh, see, I knew. And then the hair color as well. Uh,
Right.
yeah, I definitely think that Todoroki deserves like another episode to really analyze it and dissect it, and then the ships. Like my favorite ship is still, I'm still gonna root for Shoto and
Momo,
Momo.
yeah.
Really, I haven't read any of their ships yet. I've been
They're
reading.
such like they're like my favorite little nerdy couple. Like they're so
Mm,
book smart, and I'm just like I want to see more representation in that sometimes.
Yeah, I've been still reading mostly Bakugo and Kirishima, and also been reading Bakugo and Shinso art fanfic. Those have been interesting.
I
Uh,
can't wait to learn more about those because I don't read any of the fanfics, so I always learn about them through the both of you.
oh, okay. Well, I'm a fanfic queen. But I'm like, yeah, this fandom, it's funny, this fandom and JJK, it's like they're cute, but nothing like life-changing worthy, fic wise, I think. In just, what I've been exposed to on AO3 specifically. I've read some cute stuff, like, as I said, Bakugo, Kirishima, Todoroki, Bakugo. Those are basically the two ships that I I'm even, somewhat interested in. And so I've read stuff from them and they are very cute and fun. Because I like a little bit of like conflict, not conflict, but sort of contrast with the characters. You were talking about them being nerdy together and like that's cute. I like when they're a little bit different and how that kind of fits together. So I think that's why I like those ships a little bit more.
Well, I didn't
Um,
realize that when you guys say ships, like you're talking about like fanfic. I
yeah.
was thinking like, oh, what did I see in the show that I personally and I don't even think there are fanfics about these two particular
Oh,
characters.
there's probably fanfics about them. There's fanfics about everything.
Hmm.
Somebody watched this show and said, "Oh, you know what? Midnight and President Mike, they've probably never spoken to each other at all in the show, but I'm gonna write a fanfic about them." Actually, so Eraserhead and President Mike is one of the most popular ships in like on AO3. So there's that as well. Uh, but yeah, we can talk about it. I mean, maybe I'll find some time to see what like the benchmarks are, in terms of, what's the waterfalls last of, the My Hero
Oh,
Academic
you
world.
have to explain to Ray before we wrap up. You have to explain to him why
Okay,
that fanfic.
so Waterfall Last is like an AU non-canon ship for Kakashi, who you have to know. You know Kakashi, right?
Hmm.
And Iruka from Naruto. So Iruka is the teacher that takes in and basically is like the father figure for Naruto for like the entire show. Um, and so yeah, it's a fic where it's like a AU world where they're still like ninjas and shit, but they are in this other alt universe, and Iruka is from the the village behind the waterfall or something like that. But they have fallen. They have a Jinchuriki. A Jinchuriki is basically some like a person who has like one of the nine tails. Like Naruto has, the fox, and there's different ones. Gaara has what's his face? The guy who hates he is the one who hates him. But yes, so they have a Jinchuriki, they come over, they get clemency, not clemency. They basically just come to this village and they're like, look, we have a Jinchuriki, we need protection. Can we join your village? And then it slowly starts this relationship with when they move into Kakashi's house, Kakashi has to take care of them kind of, and it's Omegaverse and it's wonderful. It is literally like probably the best fic in the Naruto fan fiction like world. Like if obviously it is, for a non-canon ship because Aruka and Kakashi are clearly not together in the show. But you know what? It doesn't matter because in my heart they are together. So, but when Carrie was watching Naruto, um, I was explaining to her that basically the only reason I finished Naruto is because of fan fiction. That the only thing that got me through it was fan fiction, and so I had to introduce her to that. And she dropped the show, but she liked the fan fiction. So there you go. But yes, listen, if you want to talk about bangers in the Naruto fanfiction world, I am definitely your girl. Because I have probably read. Obviously, it's for Naruto and Sasuke and Kakashi and Iruka and like Shikamaru and Ino. Like everything I ship is non-canon. So if that's what you're interested in, yes, I am definitely your girl. Now, if you ask me about Naruto and Hinata or like Sasuke and Sakura, you gotta go somewhere else. It's just not gonna work. It's not gonna happen. Uh, but maybe I will find the fic in this fandom. Besides the really cute one where Todoroki and Bakugo buy a haunted house. That was actually really funny. But yes.
I already know the fan. You know what? This is gonna be our homework for the next episode. To
Yes.
find, I already have an idea for the ultimate fic that I've read so far for My Hero Academia, and it's a polyamorous one. It's with Shoto, Bakugo, and Deku. Surprisingly, but it is top. Actually, it's not even just this one fic, but the writer. All her fics are really good. Like her most recent one was one with Bakugo and Shinso. and Deku. Was it Deku? Yeah, back. Wait, hold on. It was like a polyamorous. Anyway, it was 4 episodes. No, four. I keep saying episodes. 4 chapters. But that's gonna be our homework for the next one. Let's find our ultimate fix. I'm gonna see if I can find a one to top the one that I'm thinking of. And I won't. Should I mention? Should we mention? Should I mention?
Surprise me, surprise me.
Yeah, we'll do a surprise thing. That's funny. When you were talking about the polyamorous one, there actually was a pretty good one I read where Todoroki is arranged to be married to Bakugo, and then he comes to the house and he finds out that Bakugo's also like has many wives or husbands. So like Kirishima is one of them, Mina is one of them, and
Got a
basically
harem.
yeah, and but the story, like at the heart of it, is like, him and Midoriya broke up like years ago or something like that. And so he comes back, and like it's the three of them are basically like the end game ship because even though he has those other couples, they were like more political marriages, like his marriage with
Mm.
Todoroki. So even though like they all slept together and whatever, it was like not love matches. Like they loved and cared about each other, but it wasn't like true love matches in the same way. So that's what I thought you were talking about. But this one, I don't think it's finished. Now
No,
that I'm
the ones
thinking
that
about
I've
it.
read from this writer, all of her fics are finished. Thank goodness. Thank
Yeah.
goodness. I
Yeah.
really, that's why now I always look at to see if a fic is complete. If it's not complete, unless I'm not getting invested in unless I see the writer continuously updating. Because I have gotten invested in fics and then they stop just suddenly cold. I'm like, did they die? Did they get sick? Like, what's happening? And then it's just like heartbreak city. But so that's our homework for the next one, Ray. So you're gonna come next week with so how much fix should we come with however many fix we find, or should we give ourselves
Well,
a
we're
specific
gonna be talking about like the cream de la creme, you know? So we're talking about the top fix that we have
of what
come
we find,
across.
right?
Yeah, so I mean, usually when it comes to like a top fix, there's only like one to three maybe that you could consider. Like, the gold, the silver, and the bronze. That's what we're looking for here. So
So
yeah.
that is our challenge for next week. So next week we'll be talking about our ships and the Todoroki family and like the brilliance of that entire story arc. Like, honestly, it is truly spectacular writing. So before we wrap up, Ray, you didn't talk much at the end just now. Is there anything you want to say at the end? You were so quiet there. I'm like, this Ray's so quiet.
Well, because I don't read fanfics, so I was just listening to all your recommendations and suggestions. Um, I guess I would say, yeah, I think this is just a great show with like really incredible themes that are packaged in a way that kids, adults can really appreciate. Um, we talked about villains and how there's always room for compassion for villains, but there's also villains that don't really require that, and it's okay to have villains like that. Um, and I love how uh, we dove into the different arcs, right? The arcs that made us connect with the show even more, and it was incredible to see that all three of us recognize that one string of arcs where
Right.
the whole progression, right? And that's what makes this show so good is the structure. And I didn't even think about how like right before the forest, what's it called? The forest camp.
I mean,
Was
the
it
forest arc, the forest journey arc.
forest
Yeah.
training arc? Thank you. Right before that, it was a the Stain arc, and I when I first watched it, I was wondering why we were introduced to Stain, and then but it made sense now because after the characters met Stain, and Stain was like, heroes should not be paid. Heroes should be doing this out of their own, the goodness of their heart. And then the students quickly understood right after that, like, no, we better get paid for this because like we're always almost dying every single day. And then that whole thing ends with meeting all for one, and it's like I want to see what Stain has to say about firefighters, like, right? So, and then also I think like Stain does get brought up a lot in the spin-off series, My Hero Academia Vigilante, which I still am on the fence of. I'm like, should I continue watching that? I don't know. But yeah, I think this was a great episode that we recorded today, and I am very excited to hear all about all the fanfics that you guys are gonna recommend. I'm probably just gonna sit here and react to all of them and just be like, What?
No, 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 Ray. You need to read too.
I know, but I'm like between now and the next episode recording, I'm like, do I have time
You
to
know, we're not. Are we going to record next week? Or are we going to record the week after?
Well, we can decide that
We will decide. So
later.
you have time. You have time. It's a long weekend coming up. It's a long weekend, and you have spring break.
True, true.
Yeah,
Mm.
but that means that it would be short period of time from that now to then.
No,
Um,
I mean, like he has time to read to this. He
oh
at
no,
least
we
has
well
time
we
this
could
week.
also just offer recommendations and then
I was
he
hoping
can read
that.
our tops, like our gold medal fix. He can read those.
Oh, okay. So should we say them now, or we'll say them in the chat, and then
No,
like
we'll have to say well no, we'll have to say them next time that we record because I do have to also do some reach because like
okay, all right.
I can't even remember last time I read a My Hero fic to be quite honest with you. So I'm not really like active in there. Mostly been reading like Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation still. So that's where I
Mhm.
am.
Yeah, they have so many figs. Oh my gosh, like so many figs. I think they still keep updating, right? For that one, right?
Yeah, I basically all the fics that I subscribe to right now are like Modal Zushi, which is Grandmaster Demonic Cultivation, and like Naruto, and still some from Bleach. Those are the stuff that I like actively read. But I'm also like a Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation like fangirl. I have the manga, I have the novel, I've watched the doujinshi, like the sorry, the Dongwa. I've read doujinshis as well. Like I'm that's my thing. That is my thing right now. So, yeah, I hyperfixate is the problem, when I like something. So if you need some recommendations for that, I can definitely give you some lens on weighing stuff. But yes, I'll take some time to research it and, get back to you when I have discovered if I like it or if, it's going to go the same wayside as JJK fics have gone. We'll see.
I'm afraid to read JJK's fanfics. I'm so afraid. Oh my gosh.
They get real dark, not gonna lie.
That's what I mean. I'm afraid. I think like just from the show alone, I'm afraid to read them because I'm like they're gonna get, especially when you start talking about Gojo and
Ghetto?
Ghetto. Like
Well, Gojo and Ghetto is popular, but
no, I mean they're probably, but I mean like the type of storylines that they could come up with. Be just thinking about the kind of character that Ghetto is. Like
uh,
just I can just imagine how dark some of those storylines are going to go, and I'm like, I think I have to be very
uh,
careful about which characters. I don't like.
I find that they're mostly AU and that a lot of people like shipping Gojo with other people as
Mm,
well. So like Gojo
Nanami.
Nanami, Gojo Geto, Gojo Yuji, Gojo Toji, Gojo like Megami, like those are all very popular ships,
Yeah, for
surprisingly.
me, it would be probably Gojo and Nanami. That's probably the ships that I would probably gravitate towards.
The only ship that I ship Nanami with is Nanami and me. So
I was gonna say the only ship I ship is Gojo and me.
right. And, oh, you know what? When we get to JJK, me and Ray have had a debate for a while about
Oh
who
yeah.
bottoms with Geto and Gojo. So I think that's something we'll have to bring to the
Well,
audience as
Matt
well
and I
too.
are keeping tabs of how many for me, fan arts I've seen where Gojo
Yes.
is a top versus Geto being a top. I'm always
Uh,
like Gojo's a top, but I feel like I'm in the minority where people think that Geto is a top, and I'm like, we'll
But
see.
also, I feel like we always want the top to be the person we want to bang. So I think that also is kind of where a lot of these opinions come from. Like, there's no real, like, solid fact about who does what in this relationship, you know? Um, but
And
yes.
who knows? It turns out that Gojo and Geto are both first.
You know what? And I can see that as well. They've definitely known each other long enough to experiment. So, but yes, when we get to, you know what, when we get to JJK,
Ooh.
it's gonna be fun because I am actually gonna rewatch JJK, but I'm doing two rewatches because I'm doing it with two different people. So one rewatch is in chronological order based on like the actual timeline. So we're gonna start with like the inventory arc, and then we're gonna work our way through it. And then my other watch is with like we're gonna do by episodes. So we're gonna do episode 0 and then start from there. So
Mhm.
I'm actually really interested to see one, if I understand anything at the end of it, because JJK is really dense. And you need rewatches to understand anything that's going on with that show. But yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited when we get to JJK because that is can of worms. Can of worms. Um,
You guys are spoiling me because like My Hero Academia and then JJK, I'm just like, I'm just gonna be on this show for a while now.
oh, and then we can do Gachi Akuta.
And then also the other
Oh,
show,
yes. Yes.
Yes, yes, my favorite trash bag show.
I
Yes.
love it. Like
Yes.
I remember discovering that show on a whim because it was like heavily promoted at first, and I was like, oh, what is this? Tuned in, I was like locked in.
Yeah.
I think I watched 3 episodes in one sitting, and I just couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah, no, I just randomly came across it. They were promoting it, obviously on Crunchyroll, and I was like, "Oh, okay, it's a show about trash." Okay. And so I started watching it, and I was like, "Oh, this is actually good."
You know what? It made me think about have you guys ever watched or read Maze Runner?
I've heard
I've
of it.
watched the
Never.
film.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a thing where like they get dropped into a maze and have to like navigate to a safe zone or whatever. Gachikuta made me think of that because of like the whole hierarchy of like the rich in the sky versus the
Right.
trash people on the ground, but also in the sky you have like the poor and the wealthy, right? So it's like and then you have to like basically survive on your own once you hit the ground, make it back to Earth. And I'm just like, but Gachikuta does it better than Maze Runner.
Yeah.
So much.
I think with Gachakuta, what really kind of stood out to me a lot was like the idea of like overconsumption and also to like the love that you put into like these inanimate, objects and like, what does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to be of worth kind of things, right? And so it really did make me actually think a lot about like, trying not to be one of those people who just, throws everything out all the time and wastes things because, it has to go somewhere. It's not like burning it is really bad for the environment, obviously, but just like, where does it go? It goes to Africa basically, because that's where it seems like we're throwing all our trash right now.
Mm.
And, now they have these mountains of trash and just like, they're burning it and it's just like a whole mess, right? And I think that like Gachakuta really honed that in whenever I watch it. So also, I've never 180'd a character as much as I did when watching Gachakuta.
Yep. I think in that you and I talked about this like in our chats where I was like I keep forgetting their character names, but the girl with the boots,
Yeah.
I was like I don't understand her, and then like the next episode is like, oh, I take that back, like I'm so sorry. Her character is very important because it talks about trafficking. Um, but then again, like the mangaka for this series is just so brilliant with that. Like all these characters are so well crafted, and then there, on top of that, there's actual diversity in an anime world where we often don't see, or we see, but then it's like caricatures or overly dramatized stereotypes of Black people. And so I think Gachiakta did a really good job in portraying specifically Black characters as intelligent, powerful leaders, right? I think that's so important to see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's just cool. Like if you wanna watch an anime that is like glaze worthy and you think Solo Leveling is like an A+ drama like anime, hey, it's only because you haven't watched Gachakuta. Which you can glaze, it has all of that. It has that, amazing energy and the coolness factor, but it actually has a story. And it actually has heart. So, yeah. Definitely recommending that actually, you know.
Yeah, should we do like a coverage on that once? Because it's such a new series. Like, should we wait until it's over, which we don't know when that would be because it could be like 10 years later,
No.
or do you want to like cover it just the first season?
I think the first season is like a good like a good way to like discuss it because one, I don't know when the second season's coming. So it's one of those things where you're just like you have to talk about where it is in this point, right? It's like with JJK, right? Like I don't know at this point like when it's gonna end. So we're just gonna talk about what we have so far, which is the 59 episodes, right? So yeah, I think that is good enough for now,
Mhm.
anyways.
And with that, we will wrap up. That's kind of how
Yes.
we always go. We always try to start a wrap up and then we start talking about, you know how it always starts out with ships. Every time we start
Yeah.
talking about ships at the end, we always it happened with every episode for Naruto and it happened last time for like Hero Academia too.
We gotta close a port at the end of every episode.
Yes.
I know we
Yes.
gotta pull the ship into port. It's so funny.
So you should do like where you can find everybody, I guess.
Yes,
Where can
yes.
they find you guys?
Ray.
I can be found on YouTube at the channel is RAYLIUR, and I do skincare videos. You can find me on Instagram with the same username. You can find me on Threads. You can find me on TikTok. You can find me everywhere with the same username.
And you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads. I'm on way too many social media accounts, but the handle is at CarrieCNH12, CRIECNH12. Of course, if you're listening to what's up with anime, that means you are on you're on the podcast platforms where you can find my other podcasts, Carolyn Talks, where I talk to film creatives around the world. My now sadly defunct and put to rest podcast, Dramas with Carrie. Ray, me and Ray was in a couple of my episodes where we talked about things like Goblin. We talked about K dramas in that podcast, and
Oh, no. We talked about Nine Tails.
we didn't we also talk about
I don't think so. Did
we
we?
talked about Tale of the Nine Tails, and I believe we also talked about
Oh, sorry.
Goblin.
Nine Tail. Yeah, Tail of the Nine Tail was the first, and then I think, yeah, Goblin
Then we
was.
did. I think we did Goblin too, right? And so, like, of course, there the podcast. You can also go on the YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@Carolyn_Haynes to watch the video version of those interviews as well of those I do for Kira Question Market Magazine. And that is my wrap up on where you can find me online. Nat, what about you? Tell us about Soju Chronicles.
Oh, I mean, yeah, we do that from time to time. Sorry, we're just very busy right now. Where we talk about dramas and animes, mangas, books, and all the in between. You can find us on not on YouTube, on Twitter. It's funny. I didn't think of Twitter first because I'm not on Twitter anymore. But yes, we still are on Twitter at Soju Chronicles. And anywhere you find podcasts, you can find us. But I want to say that the character we were talking about in Gachokuda was Amo. I can't remember why we keep forgetting her name, but Amo was who we were talking about
Thank
with the
you.
180. So yes, check out
Yes.
Amo and her story. But yeah, other than that, you can't find me, which is fine. I mean, if you guys really have questions, you can leave them in the comments, and that's great. Carrie will let me know.
Yep. Yes, on the YouTube channel, please like, comment, and subscribe, and share, please. Yes, go ahead. And and of course, like there's if on the Instagram, you'll find links to the podcast episodes through our Instagram, and of course, you'll find links for Ray through our Instagram as well. At this time, my Instagram handle is the same as my Twitter, which is CRIECNH12. So there's that. So until the next episode of What's Up with Anime, everyone, please stay still. What do I say? Still, please stay safe, stay chill, and keep watching. Bye.
Bye.